So we always followed the same sort of agenda, which usually starts with a quiz. And I asked in the sign up form about your favorite amphibian. And that's, of course, already a hint. What you see here is an amphibian. And that's the question. What is it? Do you have an idea? So, as you see in the agenda, we always share a bit of information about this little animal or plant that we show in the beginning at the very end. If you don't know, no matter. I mean, I wouldn't know probably if somebody asks me out of the blue what it is. But you see, it's pretty tiny. And it's actually the hand of my son. So it's really tiny.
I will try to guess at the end of the call.
Gloria always knows
Can I
the
ask?
answer.
Can I guess?
Sure,
Is it some kind of nude?
it is a newt. Brilliant.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
it is a newt. Um, it's a common newt, which is very popular around here. In German, it's Teichmolch. And
Mm.
I researched three interesting facts about that little animal for afterwards. But Katie, if we are at this point, why is it the poisoned dart frog that you are into?
Sorry, why isn't it?
Why is it the poisoned dart frog that is your favorite?
Oh, just because it's so colorful, and I think that it's pretty smart and cunning in the way that it like attracts animals to eat it, and then obviously it's poisonous. So yeah.
Wow. Well, I will tell you at the end why the newt turned out to be my favorite one. He has a very interesting superpower. All right. So today we talk about new functionalities, and I've added here storytelling and nature experience as one point. The three rather technical parts are the POI question database, the search field for that database, and chats and activities. Um, what I want to start with, however, is the pedagogical power of storytelling. And I think this is quite an important element of communication. Um, I digged a bit in my research. This is a slide from 2017 when I was listening to a lecture of Deborah Kidd. Dr. Deborah Kidd is a British educator, and she was researching and speaking to educators back in 2017 in Shanghai. Um, and she was writing her book, A Curriculum of Hope. And she presented this slide here. It's a slide of basically how to create engagement with students. And you see the wheel: attention, interest, engagement, investment, obsession. And she pointed out that what teachers struggle with is actually this step from attention to interest. So we live in an attention deprived world, I would say, because everything requires attention. And if you are a teacher, you actually struggle to even create interest. And she said, okay, there are a couple of mechanisms that can create interest: activity and movement, autonomy, creativity, emotions, articulacy, empathy, and so on and so forth. And I put in yellow stories. So stories are one of the ways that we can create interest. Our brain, our human brain is wired in that way. And this is why I want to share today how we try to create this interest. And I researched a little bit further. So why should we connect places with stories? Um, Places are locations that have been given meaning. This is from Tuan in 1977. He wrote that already. Through human experience and to which people feel a particular biological or social attachment. So he makes a difference here between a location, like a GPS location, or I don't know, the fast food restaurant down the strip, um, and places where we have an emotional bonding with. And then, which I also found interesting, Durkheim, a sociologist, a French sociologist. He wrote already in 1897 about the breakdown of the connection between empty landscapes and people. So when we live in landscapes where we don't have this connection anymore, then it actually can come to a breakdown of values and morality. And this is a recurring topic in modern education, once again, um, during the last few years in literature like Giddens and Sutton. So stories facilitate human bonding to a place, and that's why it's important that we create those stories. Um, and basically, all physical landscapes have a story. The story can be ecological, it can be sociocultural. Uh, but what is important from a pedagogical point of view, they provide an entry door to for cross-curricular learning. And usually this happens outdoors. I mean, of course, you have also memories in a school building, but usually you don't have this um, wide array of stories that can be found in the outdoors. And then I also found something interesting in the literature, placemaking. It's the process of creating a bond with a location. So first you have an empty location, but placemaking is the process of turning the location into a place to which we have a relationship. And eco-psychologists call this process also immersion or dwelling, because what is necessary is that you spend literally more time there. And I didn't know this terminology so much, but I mean, this is how I work. I spent considerable amount of time in a park or in a place that I want to develop for a pedagogical purpose. So what it can involve is that we create new stories, but it can also mean that we revive old stories. That's how we started also here in St. Pölten. We looked into existing nature monuments. A few of them had existing old stories, which could be retold, but most of them actually don't. So it's just a nice nature landmark, and you actually need to create a new story. All right, so that's sort of the scientific background. Um, we have themed most of our trails in the pilot project. Therefore, we have many trees that are named after the character in different stories. My three favorite stories in St. Pölten are The Never-Ending Story, Ronja the Robot Daughter, and My Neighbor Totoro. So I can share the slide deck afterwards. They're all linked to the quest that we have created. But I'm actually going to tell you today about Harry Potter in Sparkassen Park because something important happened in the last few weeks. So in the beginning, there was, of course, the place. It's a very small park downtown in our little city. It is a place with, I would say, the finest selection of trees in town, but it is so central that it is noisy, and actually it is an empty landscape. You have this landscape people walk through because it is noisy. Some people might also not find it very appealing to be there. But it actually has really a socio-cultural story. The park was created by Lothar Abel. He was originally an architect who then worked as a landscaping engineer, designer, and he's responsible for some of the finest parks in Austria. And he also created this one, I think in 84, if I remember correctly. And the park is still in the same shape and set up like he created it back, well, about 150 years ago. You see an aerial view of the park as it looks like today. And here you see him dressed in a very particular kind of Renaissance costume. He participated in a parade on the occasion of the 25th wedding anniversary of Kaiser Franz Josef. Like so many things back then were around this person. So the park, I started actually with what I call a location assessment in February 21. And those are actually pictures from this first location assessment. And then I still abused my kids. So I just went into the park with them and I checked out where they would feel attracted or start to play. And you see them here in the small pictures. And then I wrote a location assessment and thought about how can we improve this green space so that more people actually experience it as an important space in town. And the last leg of this journey um, is this here. So much work has been done in between. And many people actually at Green Steps have trained in the park. And Gloria has done a lot of work. She has put all the trees online so that we have them now as mappings. And then I think I should also really say thanks to Mila, our Russian volunteer, because she had the idea to apply for a Civitas grant. Um, I think almost 2 years ago. And then we got a little grant from the bank. And this is how we got the connection to the bank. And then the bank agreed that we put up a permanent info board in the park. And this happened last Friday. So last Friday, we installed this info board. And this is really a big thing because the city government is not very supportive of our work. I would even say they sabotage what we do. But since this is a private landowner, they agreed to install the info boards, and we have first time also those little QR codes on the tree with stainless steel screws, so they don't hurt the tree. And what you see here is one of them, Fraxinus excelsior, with the character of Hermione Granger. And those who know how this works is basically if you observe this tree and you answer the questions, then you collect this digital card. And on the digital card, you have the ecosystem services that the tree provides. And if I click now quickly on that card, it takes me to the arc and you see the overview of that route. So we have included 18 trees. And what we did the first time actually in this park, we did a little update before we installed the info boards, is that we added really cultural questions about the characters. So if I go here, for example, to Herma, this is wrong. No, it's Hermione.
I
Hermione.
mean, I don't know, but we only see the presentation, Knut. We don't see your browser.
Thank you. Then that's tricky because you switch. Do you
Hermione
see
is
now?
written correctly, I think.
I think it's
Mhm.
correctly on the tree, but not here. Here it's Hermine. So it's a typo that I just realized. But this is basically the back end of for the creation of such a quest in which you can build a story. So in the past, what we did is that we had questions only about nature. But when you now create a quest that is themed with a story, like Harry Potter, we baptized all the trees with characters from the story. Then you can also add a question. So if I go, for example, here on this stop 15, then you see here, I would have to switch now the language, but you see the character and the description, and then you can add on top of that, of course, also a multiple choice question. And I have applied this principle in the latest quest that we create. It's the story is Robin Hood, and I tried it with a school class, actually two classes. Meanwhile, a sixth grade and an eighth grade class, and it seems to work. So I think we have a proof of concept here. Now, I think the next step is that we improve the usability, and what Lucas presents today is related to this improvement. So that's it. That's the handover. What's new, Lucas?
All right. So when creating these quests, we've got some questions that are basically built into the arc that we thought might be interesting for everyone. But in the end, people who design quests end up creating a lot of custom questions. So there was this option to create a custom question and add it to a stop. But it was then only usable on that stop. You could not easily take that question and also apply it on another stop. So if you wanted to ask the same questions in a few different routes, you would be stuck recreating them over and over again. So that's quite annoying, especially if you manage more quests. So Gloria was asking me quite a few times in the past to make it happen, to basically be able to build a database of custom questions. And that's what we did this month. So let's have a look what it looks like. I'm going to share my browser. And I'm starting in the communities view. So I'm going to go to the quest that Knut was talking about. It was in the ISK school in Göteborg. And they have a quest attached to their school. It's two quests actually. One is in Krems and one is in here in Göteborg. It is indeed the Robin Hood quest. So I open it, I go to the dashboard. So when you are creating or editing a quest, this is the starting point. I go to the edit mode and I'm gonna go to the Fallen Crusader, to the second stop. And yeah, so these are all the available questions in all the available content that you can put on the stop here on the left side. On the right side is what people are gonna have to go through when they are playing the game. So the questions that they're gonna have to answer, basically. And so right now we don't differentiate visually custom and platform questions. Basically, if there is a pencil, it's a custom question. So the layout is the same as it used to be, just you need to give a name to the question. And afterwards, you can find it here on the left side. So all of these questions in the bottom, I just started to populate the database a few hours ago. So all of these are custom questions that were created in this quest. So maybe it's easier to understand if I tell you I'm now taking here the custom question card, which lets me create a new custom question. I create it, yeah, so I give it a name, I put some text, and I create some options. And after I'm click done, this question is going to appear here on the left side, and I'm going to be able to reuse it in other stops on the same quest, or also in other quests as well. So yeah, that's a big simplification for people who create more quests, or even if you want to ask the same question 2 times.
Yeah.
And
So maybe you
yeah,
want to
sorry, Knut.
also show the search field. I think that's important if this.
Oh yeah, yeah. So there is a new icon in here, which is a search field. And I don't know if I want to, maybe it's a cherry. So I type cherry, and I see that I've got a question in here about cherries. So I can bring it here and preview. What does it look like? Yep, that's it. It's very simple for now. Of course, we already have some improvements on our minds, like showing who created the question and showing how many times it has been used, and also basically by default sorting the available content um, by number of usages in quests, so that basically you have the most popular questions on your on the top of your list when designing a quest. Also, we want to add rating to it. So we don't want to limit anyone creating new questions or basically basing their new questions out of somebody else's work. So there's going to be a large amount of questions eventually. And there needs to be some kind of sorting mechanism in there to avoid being lost in the content.
Um, yeah, maybe I add one thought. Gloria has indeed been pushing for this functionality for a while because she was mainly, while I was teaching, creating all the quests and had to do the drudgery of over and over creating those questions. I was not that much aware of that, I have to say. But during the workshop that I had in the south of Austria at the Slovenian border in this school with 16-year-old students who are quite tech savvy and a couple of really interesting teachers, I realized that the threshold in the beginning to create quests is significant because you have this very new environment. You might not know what to ask. And I originally thought if we import the nature monuments in this area, it is enough as a starting point because people have already trees on their map. They can go in an archive and look up the stories, but actually it's not. So in really to create this first quest, you need to really go over a pretty high threshold. And we did one thing. We import the nature monuments so those people don't start with an empty map. But now with these questions, I think it's again much easier to get started and create quests. And from these questions, you then have inspiration to move forward and localize. So yes, it was a very important functionality. Gloria, any ideas? I mean, you have been doing a lot of those custom questions, which Lucas all is going to put into the database.
Like I think it's amazing. Yeah, I mean, I have to say also a big part of the job was not only copying the quest, but was also translating them. And so now my question is, are those custom questions that goes into a database, the translation stays, right?
Yep, exactly. So right now, really, it's the very simple first version, and um, basically, if you take someone else's question and edit it, it's gonna be updated in all the other places where it is being used. Yeah. So this is great for collaboration, but it's also great for messing somebody's stuff up. So it's not gonna stay like that, of course. I mean, we can afford doing it like this for a short while because um, everybody who's creating quests now is mostly in touch with us, and there is some training, and I think people are aware what they are doing. But it's going to be different. So it's going to only allow people to edit and modify um, if they created the question or if they are among the designers of the quest where the question was created. and everybody else will be able to basically duplicate the question and base their modification out of somebody else's previous work. There's going to be also versioning, which means it's going to be possible to go back to previous version. And I've got all kinds of scenarios in mind in like notifying an original author that there has been an update by someone else. Do they want to merge these changes back? Uh, yeah, I don't want to overcomplicate stuff, but it is a complicated matter. Like, how much do you want people? How much do you want to enable people to like improve each other's work, um, while not making it too complex and while not letting them mess things up for others? But yeah, back to your question. The translations are part of the database.
But you see, Lucas, that I just want to reply to this translation part. It was also the first question that I asked, you know. The translations are an important part of the work. And if we want not only English and German, then a translation module, whatever we use, might be very, very handy, especially if you think about projects like this five-country biosphere park, where you just by nature, by default, need to have five languages. Then you would have to assign basically one person just doing the translation. So the translation issue is there. Yeah. We will need to talk about this, how we can solve it.
I mean, it is solved the same way like everything else on the Arc. If you want to translate, you need to switch the language of the Arc, and then you're saving in that new language. So it needs to be made a bit more obvious for sure. Unfortunately, it's not very easy to do it in with an external tool like Weblate that we use for translating the user interface, because this is a user-created content and it's part of the database. It's not part of the code. But I'm sure that we can find a suitable solution. Elena has a question.
Yeah. So I understood correctly. So you take the question, you drag drop it to your quest, and then if you change it, the original question gets changed too. No.
That's how it is right now. Yes.
Okay. So isn't would it would I think at some point it would be possible to have like the original question, like the the best version of the question that like the admins agree on, and then to have this feature where you can now tell the tell the program, okay, I'm individualizing this question now. It gets like copied from the original, but it's not attached anymore to the original.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And then it will
It's-
only be in this quest and not available to others.
yeah. So it's gonna be there in some time, like matter of weeks, like that. Yeah. Just
Super cool.
because
I actually misunderstood, Lucas. I thought that we said that you customize the template. Didn't we say that the original question is not influenced, and you just customize like you do it with the library? You know,
no,
you have a
that's
library
not how
best
it is
practice.
now.
Okay, but then I think this is really tricky, because then everybody can mess up the questions right now.
Indeed.
Okay. Yeah, that's not what we discussed, right? Okay, good. Gloria.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say, I mean, as a suggestion, maybe because I think now, how many question do we have now?
Don't know yet. I will.
Okay, including all the one that I have created before, because I think it looks a bit messy. Like, of course, it's great to have the how do you say the search function, so that if you know what you're searching for, like you can type it in. But sometimes I feel like people maybe are not super sure what they are looking for and they need to read through all of them and it's a bit messy. So maybe it will be good at some point to kind of divide it in categories, maybe. Like,
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
uh-huh.
Definitely, like it could be already improved right now with like having like visually to see who created it, for example. But I was thinking it would be good to be able to tag the questions. So
Mhm.
basically, I create a database of tags,
Yeah, like at
and
least for now, trees, animals, ecosystem services.
yeah, 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 indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Um, So I'm just exploring this idea a little bit more. The way I thought is if you have a search field and there have been, we also need to be clear. The idea was to do this with biological, with nature questions, because they're a bit harder to create. No, if a school class like the school I'm collaborating with now creates a story about Robin Hood, they usually have in the German or English class the story of Robin Hood. They read the text and then they create the language on their own. But it is more difficult to do this with the biological part now. So if you have, it's also the example that I discussed with Lucas. If you have already 5 questions in the database about maple trees, and there is a maple tree along the route, then you just type maple and you have those 5 questions coming up and you choose one of them. That would be one approach. Or you want to have a question about surface sealing. So you type surface sealing and you have questions about surface sealing. That's the way I thought. This can work now in the first version. But then later on, tags, yeah, maybe this is also something that can be explored now.
Yeah, I think that mainly Gloria thinks that if someone doesn't know at all what they might want to do, and this is going to be like a big amount of things that they need to scroll through. And I think the big help for that will be sorting them by how many times they have been used.
Mm. I think the big
So,
will be the Commons Mentor training, 10 days. Come to St. Pölten, train with us, or become a Commons Mentor and offer the Commons Mentor training in your home Commons. Um, I think it's definitely much easier to learn this in a little training. Um, it is complicated. I realized with the school, it is really not so easy and intuitive. But yeah, any more ideas and feedback on this functionality? Because of course, you see, there is a long way to go to really make it intuitive in using it. No, then I think Lucas can show the second functionality.
okay, the second thing that we have today is a continuation of our communication series. And this month we added the possibility to chat in activities. So you should see my screen now. And yeah, nothing much to show for all new activities. It's going to be also migrated to the old ones. There is going to be a button, or there is a button for chat, which everyone who is a participant or a facilitator in the organizing community uh, can see. And yeah, simple like that. So good for asking questions about activity, good to follow up, coordinate, uh, stuff like that. Yeah. Um, it will also be visible in the chat center. So basically in here, so far we have two icons. You're gonna also see um, all the activities chats all together. Yeah, that's it.
and there is notification from the app, which is a PBA app. And is that also working if it's browser based, not on the app?
Yeah, so far no notifications. Will
Okay,
come
no
later.
notifications. Mhm.
Yeah, we want to make the notification settings first because yeah, just like I mentioned last time, we want to avoid that people want to turn off the notifications and they find out that they can't, and usually this ends up with deleting an account. So um, don't want to spam anyone.
Yeah. Okay. I think that part was pretty easy, so I do a little recap. Um, if it works, if it does not, then maybe not. Where is the presentation here? Do you see my screen?
Yep.
So recap of today's release, the storytelling. So we can now quite nicely merge nature and culture with the stories that we tell in a quest. I think it works really nicely since I tried it with the Robin Hood quest and the students tried it too. And they really also provided feedback on how to improve it. So ideas are coming. So I see that this is working for them. Then the POI question database makes it easier to create quests. And since it's also a crowdsourced idea, we hope that this is a growing database. If Lucas is able to implement features like seeing which questions are used most, and I think this can work quite nicely. And then there is the activity chat. This is actually something that we wanted for a long, long time because we always had to go to an external app like WeChat, WhatsApp to talk with the people of an activity. Now, if somebody signs up for a bird watching activity next week, and then you have final things that you want to talk with, or there are questions coming in, this is happening now in the same place. And of course, after an activity, you might want to share pictures or anything. You don't have to go anymore to an external solution. That's it. That was the recap for today. Um, so if you have ideas, then share with us. The next call is scheduled for April 23rd, which is very close. I think the day after Earth Day. So a good date again. Um, and you see Teichmarsh, common mute. Um, what do you
Was it
think?
your guess, Gloria?
I mean, I knew it was a type of newt. I didn't know if it was the common or another type, but not the crested, I guess. So,
It's a female mute for sure, right?
um, I mean, I've never seen one in real life, so I don't know so much about it.
Yeah, so this is already interesting, Helena. How do you see that as a female newt? Because what I read, it's not so easy to actually differentiate, and you need to basically look at their genital organs to do it.
Um, in the house where I grew up, we had a pool, and every spring we had to clean the pool, and we got out so many mutes. And then I saw, like, from the kind of that I remember, the males had different colors, different patterns, and a different, much broader tail. But maybe it's a different kind of mute.
Uh-huh. Well, so the common newt, what I found here, and this is also I want to share three interesting observations. So the first observation, which I was not aware of, is that they really have almost like an insect-like life cycle. Um, so the terrestrial adults, they turn into aquatic adults, and here you see that the male and the female actually are really they look different when they are in the breeding season. Then you have the egg, the embryo, and then there is a larva. But actually, what we have seen is the eft. So there is a term when they are juvenile and not yet able to reproduce. They are called eft. And the efts, it's, I think, what I read, really difficult to differentiate the sex. Um, so they are on land, and they basically walk slowly towards a breeding water body, and there they then turn into adults. And the interesting part here is also that they have quite a long lifespan. So it takes 3 years until they are mature, that they can actually procreate. And in captivity, they have lived up to 30 years, which is really long. Um, so this was for me Eft. I mean, it even sounds a little bit like elf, and I think it's just a cute name. But then what really was mind-boggling to me was this stem cell differentiation. So newts are one of those few species that can regrow a limb. So they have been really an intense subject or object of research because, of course, if you can find out how a stem cell can automatically transform into any other cell that you need to regrow a limb or an eye, then this is would be an absolute breakthrough in medicine. So they were not so far, although this was already discovered like 200 years ago. Seems to be really complicated because of the genetics, but very interesting, I would say, biology slash medicine subject. So that's a incredible superpower. Read up the stories. I can share afterwards, of course, in our new activity chat. I can share a National Geographic article that recaps this really nicely. Um, but Lucas, this wouldn't be your job, no? Performing a surgery on a newt's eye for 17 times and just to see if the eye grows back. It was a bit creepy to read. Um, yeah, and then there is a third observation that I want to share. Um, since I'm currently, in terms of ecology, a lot thinking about how we can restore water bodies, those industrialized landscapes, and how we can also involve students in this work. I've noticed that here in St. Pölten, they have created this new, very small water body. It's just a creek. It's a very small river, and they have created this retention reservoir, which I would say is 50 times 200 meters large, with not too much water. And the population of amphibians has tripled in only 3 years. We have collected last year 400 amphibians. This year it's more than 1,200 already. I'm going there every week once, and I'm seeing in our chat group the data. It's just amazing. And there are so many newts and so many toads and frogs. So water bodies, they just give life. Um, but newts are also ecological indicators. So when our water bodies are healthy and clean, the newts can live, especially in the alpine areas. If they are polluted, the newts die off. And this is quite a striking example because out of the more than 100 species of newts, there's only one that has gone extinct so far. And this is the Yunnan Kunming Lake newt. And I have lived there actually for 3 years, and I know that this lake has been completely polluted. And this is the Yunnan Lake newt. It's beautiful, no? It's even recognizable that it is related to the salamander. Yeah, so that was I was touched, of course, by that story because we were discussing a lot back then in 2002 how this environmental degradation is going to impact the environment. And as a matter of fact, this species is extinct. That was it for the quiz. I hope you liked the observations that I shared with you.